All right, so again, I'm Ms. Feller. I have been teaching science and social studies and language arts, but I've mostly done science. This is my 23rd year. I know I don't look old enough. It's okay, but yes, I've been here that long. This is my home, Madison #1. Your children get to do a really cool end of the year project called the Invention Convention. So in this packet, the first page just kind of goes through it briefly. It is not due for a whole month. So it's not due till May 8th. So Wednesday, May 8th will be the due date. And it's mostly done at home with your support. So we want you to be involved in this project. Ms. Acosta and I will be checking in every week to see how your child is doing, if they need our support more, and so on, okay? So again, we appreciate your help at home. If you have any questions during this, you can email me or Ms. Acosta. I'm having this recorded. It'll be on my website, along with all the information will be emailed to you as well, okay? And our lovely PTO bought us all these display boards, which we're gonna be selling to your families at $4 a piece, which the money will then go back. If you can't afford that, just come talk to me and we can work it out, okay? But these are the colors that they can choose from if you choose to go this route with the display boards. And yes, I will be selling them after the presentation. Okay, I've already sold 4 children ones today. I was shocked. I'm like, you have money? Like, I never have money. Who has cash anymore? All right, apparently some of the children do. Oh, Kayla, you do? Oh no, okay. Hi guys, come on in. So, this just kind of goes over the basics. What we want your child to do is they basically have to create a model that solves a problem. Now, these problems can be very simple. Look at home, maybe you lose your keys, maybe you got an issue with the pet, maybe you lose your remote controls, or you have issues with your, your gaming stuff. Maybe it's in the bathroom, maybe it's in the garden, maybe it's at school, okay? Maybe it's in the community. But think kind of small on this, and what is a way they can build a model to solve a problem? Most of your kids will create what's called an innovation. That's when they take 2 things and put them together to solve a problem. I'm gonna give you an example. Many years ago, I had a kid who said he got lost when hiking. I was like, oh dear God, that's not good. We don't want children lost in the wilderness. So he created the shoe compass. Yes, he put a compass on his shoe, and then he never got lost again. He just had to aim it north. So this is kind of an innovation. You put 2 things together. Most of your students will do innovations. Okay, if they do a true invention, that's pretty cool too. I've had a few over the years, but most of them will do an innovation to solve a problem. So we want them to be problem solvers. We want them to go out into the world and solve problems. That's why I do this end of the year project, so they learn how to be problem solvers, okay? Could someone grab the door one more time back there? I'm sorry, it blew shut. Thank you so much. Thanks Adelaide. Okay, so this just kind of gives the basics. This page is pretty important, the second page in the packet. This is what you guys will sign once you hear my spiel, and if you have any questions, you have to sign, your child has to sign, then you date it. So I know that, you know that, we know that, I know that, you know that, I know that, we know that, you know, and all our butts are covered. Did you get that? Okay, yeah. So we gotta make sure that we're all on the same page. So Ms. Acosta and I are asking for this page back with your signature on, stating that you understand the project, okay? So if you can get this to us by the end of the week or by next week, otherwise you're gonna hear us calling you. Yes, we'll be making phone calls, emails, we need that signature. It's really important that you turn this in, so that way we know that you guys understand the full meaning of the project. Like I said, it's mostly done at home. Over the next month, Ms. Acosta and I will be checking in every week with your child and doing little conferences to make sure they're on the right track, okay? Any questions on that page? Don't worry, I'm gonna go over everything you need is in this packet. All right, this is kind of what needs to go on the display board, okay? So the display board basically explains your child's invention, okay, or innovation. It doesn't have to be in this order. These are just examples. It doesn't have to be that many materials or this many procedures or steps. It's just an example. So basically, you want them to have a title. Their name is important. Let me tell you how many names don't get put on the Invention Convention. I make that points on the rubric. They lose 5 points for not putting their name on this board, just FYI. And then we have the problem and solution statement. This states what is the problem and what are they trying to solve, okay? And then we have the materials used. however materials it takes. You could put pictures, you could do drawings, you could just list them out, type them up, however they want to do it, okay? That's the materials. And then we have procedures or steps on how it was made. Sometimes students use images. Sometimes they just list out what they did. Again, it doesn't have to be 10 steps. It's just an example. Some only need 3, okay? And it doesn't have to be in this order. They can organize it any way they want on the board. And then we're gonna get into inventor's logs, intent to invent, and research sheet. These all need to be on the board in some way. They can be attached, they can be in a folder, but we're gonna get to those later. But this is what needs to be on the display board, because not only is this graded by Ms. Acosta and I, they also get judged. Oh yes, we give out 10 first place ribbons, 10 second place, and 10 third place. Plus every child will get a participation ribbon, a green participation ribbon for participating. Now the person that judges them does not know your children, it is fair. I do not judge, no way. We also give out honorary mention awards. Sometimes we give out humanitarian or Go Green awards, depending on what your child's project is and what the judges feel. Okay? So it's kind of a special little bonus. Oh yes, we put them on the announcements, and the ribbons are nice and big. I forgot to bring them out of my room again. Didn't I do that earlier today? Yeah. But anyway, they all get a participation green ribbon. Okay? So that's the board, and this is how it's going to be graded. It's a pretty big rubric. It's broken down exactly by points. The working model, which would be like the shoe compass here, your working model is 60 points. So that's the big chunk of it. And then the display board is broken down by title, is 70 points. So the title is 5, their name is 5 points. They don't put their name on this board, they lose 5 points off their grade. Don't freak out, Kayla and Sophie, it's okay. I know. Don't pee your pants. Okay. Now, and then convention, spelling and grammar, yes, that is 5 points. So they need to check their spelling and their grammar. The problem and solution statement is 15. Material section is 15. Procedures, step by step is 15. And then overall neatness is 5. I can tell if they did it the night before it was due. Yeah, I can tell. All right. And then inventor's log, intent to invent, and all that, that's 60, and we're gonna get into that later. But you guys can see how it's broken down. So if they're missing something on the board, they're gonna lose points for that, okay? Any questions on the rubric before I move on? It's pretty detailed, pretty specific, okay? All right. Now this is just kind of a sheet to get them thinking about problems and things that bug them around the house. My mom is always losing her keys. I mean, she's 74, but this has been happening for like 20 years, okay? Like, where's my keys? Where are my keys? Oh, here they are. So if you see a problem at home or at school, write it down, something that bugs you, and maybe you can figure out a way to solve it. This is just a way for them to start thinking about problems they see around the house, okay? And they can start writing them down. So it's just a little brainstorming sheet to get them going, okay? And then this page has about 9 questions. Inventing is not easy. Your children will be going through trial and error, and they're going to get frustrated in this process. I tell them to persevere. If one idea isn't working, they need to move on to the next. Don't let them fester too long on something that they may not be able to make a model out of, okay? Oh, and the models do need to fit into the gym and the cafeteria. Please don't make them so big that we can't get them into the building, all right? They should just kind of sit in front of the board or be attached to the board. If we need to, we can put it on the floor. But my first year teaching, I made the mistake of not telling them that. And some parent brought something in the back of their truck they had to use a lift for. And I was like, oh my OMG, what did I do? So please, make sure it can fit into the building. Like, we're gonna be in the gym this year. I know it says cafeteria, but we get to use the gym, yay. Okay, so the Invention Kitchen will be in the gym on May 8th. So these 9 questions, you should be able to say yes to. Is this a new idea or is it innovation? Does my idea solve a problem? This is not your typical science fair, we're gonna grow mold on bread. This project has to solve a problem. We want your children to be problem solvers in the world, and this is one way that they start to think about those things at home, at school, in the community. Okay, how will my invention work? Can I even make this thing? Okay, is the model working the right way? How can I make it work better or more attractive? And finally, is it safe to use? We don't want to see explosives or fire or knives, please, or any kind of weaponry in your child's project. Thank you. But again, it needs to be safe. So if you answer yes to all those, your kid's on the right track. If not, they need to go back and, like I said, it's trial and error. Inventing is not easy, but kids are so creative. They are more creative than you and I. OMG. So that's just kind of a little thing there. Now this page is just to help them get started. Once they get a really good idea, they can put what the problem is here, who is it affected, list some backup ideas they have, what challenges might they have, and then these next few pages are, what solutions to your problem can you think of here? Can you start drawing what you might make out of this? How will you test it? These pages will not go on the board. They are for Ms. Acosta and I to conference with your student on. So they can kind of use this to kind of get their ideas going. And then when we conference with them, they can show us that and talk to us about it, okay? So it's just a way for them to get their really good idea down once we first conference with them. And then any backup ideas or problems they might have, okay? So this doesn't need to go on the board. It's just for them to use to help them out, all right? So again, we've got that page, and then this one is just to put solutions down on, one for drawing, any prototypes, and then testing page ideas. Now the inventors logs. There's like 8 of them in your packet. These are when they get that really good idea, and we want to transfer them to a log. They need to have 4 of these on their board minimum. One kid had 20. He had a lot of ideas. We may not need that many. But the one good idea will be on that paper, on one of them, and then some other ideas that maybe didn't work out. Or these are kind of like the rough draft pages. Now they can retype this, redo them in their own format. They don't have to use this format. But again, it's kind of for their rough draft ideas and how they're going to go about with the process, with the logs. That way we can see their train of thought on the board and how they were thinking during this process. Now again, the minimum on the board is only 4 of these that are needed, okay? Only 4. We've given you 8 in there. If they need more, they can come see us. And again, they can rework this. They can retype it, they can do it in a different format, it doesn't matter. So here's just some examples. This one was for the boot plunger. We're gonna talk about that one in a minute. They kind of wrote down what they would need, they did some drawings of it, and this could be taken from the conferences we had and the earlier pages, okay? Now let's say Valeria has a great idea at 2 in the morning. She wakes up, she grabs the log, she writes it down. Maybe your children are going to the restroom and they get a great idea. Sometimes great things happen on the toilet, I know. I said that, yes. But they grab a log, they write down their idea, okay? So again, these are just kind of for their brainstorming ideas and for their rough drafts, but we want at least 4 on the board so we can see that process. Now, you don't have to use drawings. Some kids use pictures or images, okay? So again, they can use a different format. They don't need to use the format in the packet, okay? But they do have 8 in there to get them started. They don't need more than 20. Please don't do 50, children. Okay, Kayla, I don't know about you. All right, I'm joking. She's like, I'm gonna do 50. I'm joking. All right, so those are the inventors logs. They're just kind of like their rough draft pages, and we want to see their process. Now, at the end of the inventors logs, you have what's called the intent to invent. This is kind of like a contract between my students and myself and Ms. Acosta and her students. And you'll notice at the bottom it says, I will practice science safety rules at all times. And they have to sign off on that. So this needs to be on the board somewhere. It can be attached to the logs. It can be its own. They can retype this. They don't have to do this format, okay? But it's just a little science safety contract. They just do a quick explanation. We don't want your children using saws on their own or drills. You may want parent supervision for that, just FYI. I don't want Sophie to cut her finger off. Okay, Sophie, we don't need any of that, yes. All right, so that's just a little, the intent to invent is like a contract saying they're gonna use science safety, okay? And then the last page is the research page. Yes, they kind of need to research their idea and see if there's anything else out there. They can Google it, they can go to Target, Walmart, Ace, Home Depot. What other places are there? I don't know, a store to look for their idea, okay? One could be online, and now if they find something that's similar to their idea, that's okay. They're gonna make it their own, do you understand? I know, they may find something and get freaked out, it's okay. They just need to make it their own, but they do still need to research to make sure there's not something exactly like what they're planning on doing. And this also needs to go on the board somewhere. It can be attached to the logs. They can redo the format. But these are the 3 things I talked about earlier on the board. So the intent to invent, the logs, and the research sheet, okay? They can be connected. They can retype them however they want to do them. They can be in a pocket. They can be in a folder. They can get all fancy, okay? However they want to do it, just needs to be on the board, all right? So that's about it. I think I've gone over everything. So again, I've got some great examples up here. I'm going to talk about a few. There are a few other things we do need to discuss. There's a few projects. Well, if your kid does want to do a very large scale project, and we've had some of those. One of them I can remember, and I still have the scale model. So a kid wanted to build a screen for their air conditioning unit because it was in the sun and it was draining a lot of power. So the family built a screen around their air conditioning unit. I know, it was huge. They couldn't really bring it in. They put pictures on the board showing the exact model, and then they built a scale model and put it in front of the board. So if your children are inclined to do larger things if you want, and if it can't be fit into our building, just have pictures of it and they can do a scale model. Does that make sense? So we have had some that are really big over the years. We've also had some that involve the community. I had a student one year who saw the homeless population around here. And so he created something that was a tent and a backpack in one. And he made 3 of them, and then he gave them to the homeless people afterwards. So again, if your child wants to go more humanitarian route, that's great. They don't have to, it can be small. I always tell kids, look at a paper clip. It's a piece of metal folded. Okay, so think small first. If they want to go big, they can. But look at animals at your house maybe. In the kitchen, is there a problem? Okay, we do not want your pets here though. If they do something regarding an animal with their dog, cat, bunny, fish, bird, reptile, please don't bring your animals on that day, okay? First of all, they're not allowed. Second of all, I won't be babysitting your bunny and watching it poop. If they do something involving an animal, just maybe use a stuffed animal to show how it goes on the animal, or have pictures on the board and still bring in the model of what you did for it. I've had students bring in the cage, but no animal in it. Maybe they put a fake bunny in there. But we've had kids innovate cages and how they get rid of poop in the cage. Do you know what I mean? But please, leave the animals at home that day. Thank you. But I'm open to them using their pets because we have a lot of issues with pets. I get it. My dog's a pickle. I know. Even my tortoise. I built her a den. Does she really use it? No, not really. She digs her own hole. That's fine. But whatever. So again, we encourage you to use pets or animals for their problem, but just don't bring them on that day. And there's a few projects that I never really want to see again in 23 years. So I'm going to tell you about them, what not to do. One of them is sponge gloves. Oh, please. One year I had 25 sponge gloves. I'm not kidding you. These are kind of overdone and overkill. And then we have also had the mop shoes. Do you know what I mean? Same kind of thing. Please don't do sponge gloves or mop shoes anymore. I kind of have nightmares about them now. So this is one thing that that have kind of been overkill and overdone over the years, and we kind of say no to now. I don't want to discourage them, but when you have 20 different sponge gloves, it gets a little old. Here's another model of a sponge glove. Oh yeah, a little creepy looking, but okay. Anyway, and then there's one more thing that we've had a lot of over the years, and that is, I'm gonna say this correctly. Okay, I'm trying to think of the name now. My mind's gone blank, sorry. Oh, remote control car pooper scoopers. Yes, overdone. I've had Barbie cars and the Barbies driving them. I've had big truck ones with, scoop up poop. It's a great idea, but it's overdone. I I mean, if you want to figure out another way to pick up poop, great. Dog poop is a problem, I get it, you know? But no more remote control car pooper scoopers, please, okay? I mean, they're great, but they've been overdone and overkilled. And if your child does come up with a great idea, maybe not have them spread it around, because I really can't stop copycatters from happening. It's like gossip. Do you know what I mean? If they get a really great idea, I know they really want to tell their bestie, but their bestie might spread it. Okay? So maybe have them try to keep it to themselves, or just tell me or their Miss Acosta. Again, I can't really help the copycatters, guys. It happens sometimes. Or they get the same idea. Do you know what I mean? But again, maybe try to help them keep it in. I know they get really excited. But those are just a few things that we don't want to really see again. So again, we've got some great projects here. In years past, this one is one of my favorites, the Fly Be Gone. This child had issues with flies in their house. And she didn't like picking them up or wasting Kleenex and using it, to pick up the dead fly. So she created the Fly Be Gone. It's a spatula and a turkey baster in one. So you swap the fly, and then you suck it up, and you just shoot it into the garbage. Genius, very simple, very innovative, and she even has dead flies to test out with it. I know. They're like pieces of flies now. This one's probably 10 years old, but anyway, let's not open that tonight, maybe. Yeah, I don't want the dead flies flying around. Anyway, but that's a great one. She has everything done on the board properly. This was an aid project, and I think it got a ribbon, yeah. So again, very simple ideas are innovative. You can come up here. This one, the Olive Stuffer Supreme. I don't have some of these projects because they kept them, but I have the boards. This mother used to stuff olives with cheese for like appetizers for her parties, I guess. And she hated getting the cheese inside the olives. So this girl took a plastic syringe, cut the tip off of it, shoved cheese in it, and then you could use the syringe to shove it into the olive. It solved her mother's problem of getting cheese into olives, if you're into that. I really don't like olives that much, but whatever. Okay, but the feta cheese inside the olives was good, and this solved her mother's problem. So you can see how she did it here on the board, and it was a great innovation. So again, the boot plunger. This one's my favorite one. These people had issues with their toilet and their septic system, apparently, and the regular old plunging just wasn't doing it. You couldn't get enough force. So what do? They attached a plunger to the boot. You get more force with your foot, right? Don't worry, it's cleaned. You can smell it, it's clean. The kids tested it out earlier. I'm just kidding, no. But that solved their problem of having issues with their toilet and plunging. So they got more force. So some of these, like I said, are very creative. We have another one over here called the Garden Grabber. This girl's had artichokes in her garden. And artichokes are very thorny plants. And when you pick them and pull them, it cut her hands and even through her gloves. So she created the Garden Grabber. This thing chopped off the artichoke, and then it dropped into the netting here that she made, and she didn't have to touch it. So there you go. So again, this was an issue she had in her garden, and she solved the problem by creating that. We have a few more really cool ones over here as well. There's one called the scorpion one. What was it called again?
Scorpion Boss.
Scorpion Boss. This kid had a bark scorpion problem in his house. He lived up by the mountains. And he took one of those trash grabbers and put a UV light on it. Because you can see bark scorpions with the UV light. And he went around and he grabbed it with the trash grabber after seeing him and putting him in a jar and put him in a jar. So he innovated two things, put them together to go after scorpions. But again, there's a lot of creative ideas. You just got to think of a problem. It can be very simple. And I will be selling display boards if you would like to buy one afterwards. Just be careful of the cords if you're looking around up here. And thank you guys for coming. Are there any questions I need to answer before we're done? This pretty much explains all of it. And like I said, my trusty lawyer right here is videotaping this. And it'll go out on email and it'll be on my website for you. Okay? All right, thank you guys for coming. Have a good night.